Hey everyone, hope you're well. So essentially this morning I was having some soul time, just like my usual devotion, reflectional time. And typically I have quite a few like devotions, or books that I like to use as well, alongside my Bible to just further like enhance and just to deepen like my time basically, as I'm having like this kind of soul time. What came to my mind first of all was this verse. Like what just kept ringing in my mind was, in all things give thanks, for this is the will of God for you. And I forgot where that was, so I quickly did a Google search to find out where the verse was, and I found that it was in First Thessalonians 5. So I went there and I read the whole verse, and I guess for me it was kind of trying to break down what that meant and why that was dropped in my spirit. So I started to kind of think about, okay, what does it mean by in everything? And then, you know, what does it actually mean to give thanks? And then the third part for me was like, in all things. So I was kind of asking myself the question, how in all things can we give thanks? And also, why in all things shall we give thanks? So we're told in the verse that we are to give thanks in all things because this is the will of God for our lives. So that's primarily like the reason. But me being me, I wanted to explore that a little bit more, especially when it's like when you're going through like some testing times. It's kind of like, how can I give thanks in these times, and why should I give thanks in these times, aside from it being the will of God for our lives? And as I started to like reflect on it a bit more and just like think about it a bit more, what came to my mind was the fact that when we thank God, our minds start to think about everything God has done for us. Lord, I thank you for waking me up this morning. Lord, I thank you for provision. Lord, I thank you that, irrespective of the cold, the rain, I have a warm bed to sleep in at night. I can wake up and I can have like a hot drink. Like, there's so many things. Like, as you start to like really, really deep it, there's so many things that you can be thankful for. And that shift, literally, because like you're focusing on God now, you're focusing on God's faithfulness, you're focusing on his goodness, you're focusing on his mercy, you're focusing on his kindness, you're focusing on his love, you're focusing on his provision. Like, all of these things start to just come to mind, and there's no way you can have those feelings of insecurity, rejection, doubt, there's all of those kind of feelings, and at the same time like be thankful and grateful for everything that God has done for you. God tells us to be thankful because it's his will for us, yes, and also because he wants us to just kind of be free and at peace in our hearts. And when we're thinking about God, we truly can. And again, this is why we're told in Colossians that we're to set our minds on things above and not things on this earth, because the things on this earth are so temporary, they're so fleeting, they're so like 1 minute here, 1 minute, do you know what I mean? So that was really, really like insightful. And there's a few other things that actually came to light. I was using um one of the books, Dare to Bloom, and there was some things that she wrote in her book that really, really, really resonated, which I'll share now. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit now. She says, God has given each of us traits that we can use during hard times. There are countless examples of men and women of God being put to the test. But what is most notable about their stories isn't of their escape. It's what happened when they endured, the part that I highlighted. God has proven over and over that he will bless our endurance. He sees exactly what we're going through and will respond at just the right time. Now, that was something that really resonated with me because I did find myself asking God a question lately. And just reading that sentence was the answer basically, because I had asked God my question with when I was like just having my own like prayer time. And I don't know, just reading this morning, it was the response I needed. Ultimately, God sees, God knows what we're going through, God knows what we're dealing with, and at the right time, God's gonna respond. Like, I think the thing that kind of stood out there for me is that endurance piece. Like, God's gonna bless our endurance. It's not in vain. It's not a game. It's not like God sees. God sees. I don't know. I can't explain it any further than that right now. Maybe when I'm on the other side, I'll be able to, but God sees. God sees.